Adaora's heart raced as the wind blew loudly through the trees. She stood alone in the dark, surrounded by the thick, wild bushes. The night was heavy with silence, and her body trembled from the pain. Blood stained her clothes, and every part of her screamed in agony. "Why me?" she whispered into the emptiness, her voice barely a breath. She collapsed to her knees, her sobs echoing into the void. She tried to hold herself together, but the weight of what had happened crushed her spirit. She couldn't erase their laughter, their cruel touch. She was deeply broken. She was lost. Adaora, 17 years old, was different from the other girls at the university. She had come from a poor family, and the scholarship she had earned was her ticket to a brighter future. While the other students focused on socializing, partying, and chasing boys, Adaora had one thing on her mind: studying. Her textbooks were her only companions, her only escape from the harsh reality of life. Boys? They weren't even a thought in her mind. She didn't have time for distractions. Late at night, she would sneak into the old university building, the one that was barely used anymore, and immerse herself in her studies. But there was one thing Adaora hadn't anticipated: the attention she would get from a group of boys. They were curious about her, always watching her from afar. The other students were loud and boisterous, but Adaora was quiet, focused, and unapproachable. The boys, however, were intrigued. They began to notice her late-night study habits. Every evening, she would leave the library around 10 p.m. and walk home alone, passing through the dark, secluded bush pathway that ran along the edge of the campus. One night, as she walked home, they made their move. Before she could react, a group of boys jumped out from behind the trees. They grabbed her by the arms, their grip tight and unforgiving. She screamed, but no one was around to hear her. They dragged her into the bushes, their laughter echoing in her ears. She fought with every ounce of strength she had, but it was no use. After what felt like an eternity, they finally let her go. The boys ran off, leaving her in the dirt, broken and bleeding. Adaora stumbled to her feet, her body trembling with pain. She couldn't even remember their faces. All she could do was walk home in a daze, the blood from her body staining the ground beneath her feet. She was shattered, and the world seemed to close in around her. She didn't know what to do. She didn't know how to move forward. All she could do was cry. When morning came, Adaora could not get out of bed. The sunlight coming through her window felt too bright, too harsh. She pulled her blanket over her head and closed her eyes tight. But even in the darkness, she could still see their faces. Her roommate knocked on the door. "Adaora, are you okay? You missed your morning class." "I'm sick," Adaora called back, her voice weak and shaky. It was not really a lie. She felt sick in her stomach, sick in her heart, sick everywhere. "Do you need me to get you medicine from the clinic?" "No. Just leave me alone, please." Her roommate's footsteps moved away from the door. Adaora was glad. She did not want to see anyone. She did not want to explain anything. For 3 days she stayed in her room. She only came out when her roommate was in class. She would quickly go to the bathroom, get some water, and run back to her bed. Food had no taste. Sleep would not come easily. When she finally fell asleep, she would wake up screaming from bad dreams. On the 4th day, someone knocked on her door. It was not her roommate's soft knock. This one was different. "Adaora, it's me, Obinna." She knew that voice. Obinna was in 2 of her classes. He was quiet like her, always sitting in the front row with his books. She had seen him in the library many times, but they never really talked. "I'm not feeling well," she said through the door. "I know. I brought you the notes from Professor Okoli's class. You missed the test announcement." Adaora sat up in her bed. She had forgotten about school completely. Her scholarship. If her grades dropped, she would lose everything. Can you just slide the notes under the door?" "Sure." She heard the sound of papers being pushed under her door, but Obina did not leave. "Adaora, are you really okay? People are asking about you." "What people?" Her heart started beating fast. Did they know? Did someone see what happened to her? "Your study group members. They said you never miss classes. Professor Okoli asked about you too." Relief washed over her. They were asking because of school, not because they knew her secret. "I'll be back in class soon," she lied. "Okay, but if you need help with anything, I live in the male hostel, Block C, Room 15. His footsteps walked away. Adaora picked up the notes and saw his neat handwriting. He had written everything down clearly, even drew diagrams for the parts that were hard to understand. The next day, Obina came again. "Adaora, I brought notes from today's classes." This time she opened the door just a little bit. She could see part of his face through the crack. He looked worried. "Thank you," she said quietly, taking the papers. "You look tired. Are you eating?" She wanted to close the door, but something in his voice made her stop. It was not like the other boys who sometimes tried to talk to her. There was no flirting, no smooth words, just real worry. "I'm fine. When I was sick last semester, my mother sent me some soup recipe. It's easy to make. I could write it down for you." "No, it's okay." "All right, but Adaora, if you need anything, even just someone to get your books from the library, you can ask me. No need to be shy." After he left, Adaora thought about his words. No boy had ever offered to help her with schoolwork before. Most of them looked at her differently, like they wanted something from her, but Obina had never looked at her that way. Still, she remembered what happened in the bush. She remembered how those boys had seemed normal during the day, walking around campus like regular students. How could she know who to trust? She made a decision that night. She would never trust any boy again, no matter how nice they seemed. Obina could be different, but she could not take that risk. Her heart could not handle being hurt again. When she finally returned to classes a week later, she kept her head down and spoke to no one. Obina would sometimes smile at her or nod hello, but she would look away quickly. During group discussions, if he tried to talk to her about the lesson, she would give short answers and turn to someone else. "Why don't you like Obina?" her roommate asked one day. "He seems nice, and he's always asking about you." "I don't trust boys," Adaora said firmly. "Any of them. But he's different. He's not like those troublemakers who chase girls around campus." "They're all the same," Adaora replied, opening her textbook. "I came here to study, not to make friends with boys." From that day forward, Adaora threw herself into her books like never before. When other students were chatting or hanging out, she was in the library. When they were at parties or social events, she was in her room studying. Books became her safe place, her escape from the world, and from the memories that still haunted her dreams. The future was the only thing that mattered now. She would graduate, get a good job, and build a life where no one could ever hurt her again. 4 years later, Adaora stood in front of her small mirror. adjusting the simple black dress she had bought for graduation. She looked at her reflection and smiled for the first time in years. Today, she would graduate with honors. The ceremony was beautiful. When her name was called, she walked across the stage with her head held high. She had done it. Despite everything that had happened, despite all the nights she had cried herself to sleep, she had finished her degree. But the celebration was short. While other students took pictures with their families, Adaora sat alone. Her parents could not afford to come to the ceremony. She watched other families laughing and hugging their children, and she felt empty inside. "Congratulations, Adaora." She turned around to see Obina standing behind her. He was holding his own certificate, dressed in a nice suit. "Thank you," she said quietly. "Congratulations to you too. My family is having a small party at home. You can come if you want." Adaora shook her head. "I have things to do. Job hunting starts tomorrow." Obina looked sad but nodded. "Good luck with everything. I hope you find something good." That was the last time she saw him. The next few months were hard. Adaora sent her CV to many companies, but most of them did not reply. The few interviews she got did not go well. Some employers looked at her address and saw she came from a poor area. Others asked about her family connections in business. She had none. She was running out of money. Her small savings from her scholarship allowance were almost finished. She shared a tiny room with another girl who was also looking for work. Every day she would walk to different offices, hoping someone would give her a chance. One morning she saw a newspaper advertisement that caught her attention. Personal assistant needed. Good pay. Must be hardworking and smart. Send CV to Emeka Industries. Adaora had heard of Emeka Industries. It was one of the biggest companies in the country. She did not think she had a chance, but she had to try. She spent her last money on printing a clean copy of her CV and bought a bus ticket to their office. The building was huge and modern. Adaora felt small walking through the glass doors. The receptionist looked at her from head to toe before taking her CV. "Wait here," the woman said coldly. Adaora sat in the waiting area for 2 hours. Other people came and went, but she stayed. This might be her only chance. Finally, a man in an expensive suit came out. "Miss Adaora, please follow me." Her heart was beating fast as they walked down a long hallway. The man opened a door to a big office with large windows and beautiful furniture. "The CEO will see you now." Adaora walked into the office, her hands shaking a little. Behind the big desk sat a tall man in his early 30s. He was handsome, well-dressed, and looked successful. When he looked up at her, his eyes stayed on her face for a long moment. "Please, sit down," he said, his voice deep and calm. Adaora sat in the chair across from his desk and handed him her CV. As he read it, she studied his face. There was something familiar about him, but she could not remember where she had seen him before. "Your grades are very good," he said, looking up at her. "Tell me about yourself." "I worked very hard in school, sir. I had a scholarship, so I could not afford to fail. I am good with computers and I learn fast. I don't have much work experience, but I am willing to work extra hours if needed." "Why do you want this job?" Adaora took a deep breath. "Sir, I need this job. I come from a poor family and this is my chance to build a better life. I will work harder than anyone else because this job means everything to me." The man, Emeka, nodded slowly. "What are your long-term goals?" "I want to learn business and maybe start my own company one day. But first, I want to gain experience and save money to help my family." Emeka asked her a few more questions about computers and office work. Adaora answered as best as she could. When the interview was over, she stood up to leave. "Wait," Emeka said. "Can you start on Monday?" Adaora's eyes went wide. "You mean I got the job?" "Yes, You will be my personal assistant. The salary is good, and there are benefits. My secretary will give you all the details." Adaora could not believe it. "Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. I will not disappoint you." As she left the office, she felt like she was floating. She had done it. She had gotten a job at one of the best companies in the country. Her future was finally starting. But as she walked out of the building, she did not know that the man who had just hired her was one of the same boys who had destroyed her life years ago in the university bush. Time had changed them both, and Emeka did not recognize the scared, broken girl from that terrible night. Monday morning came quickly. Adaora wore her best outfit, a simple blue dress and flat shoes. She arrived at the office 30 minutes early because she did not want to be late on her first day. Emeka's secretary, Mrs. Nkiru, showed her around the office and explained her duties. "Mr. Emeka is a very busy man," she said. "He has meetings all day, every day. Your job is to make his life easier, answer his phone calls, arrange his meetings, prepare his documents. He doesn't like mistakes." "I understand," Adaora said, taking notes. Working with Emeka was not what she expected. He was demanding but fair. He never shouted at her when she made small mistakes in the first few weeks. Instead, he would explain what she did wrong and show her the right way to do it. "Good morning, Adaora," he would say every day when he came to the office. "How are you today?" "I'm fine, sir. Your first meeting is at 9 a.m. with the bank manager." "Thank you. And Adaora, you don't have to call me sir all the time. Mr. Emeka is fine." After 2 months, Adaora began to feel comfortable in her job. She learned fast and rarely made mistakes anymore. Emeka seemed to notice her hard work. "You're doing very well," he told her one Friday evening. "I'm impressed with how quickly you've learned everything." "Thank you, Mr. Emeka. I really appreciate this opportunity." "Have you eaten lunch today?" he asked. Adaora was surprised by the question. "No, sir. I mean, Mr. Emeka. I was too busy with the reports." "That's not good. You need to eat. Come, let's go to the restaurant downstairs." "Oh no, I can't. That's not appropriate. I'm just your assistant." "Nonsense. Good assistants are hard to find. Consider it a working lunch. We can discuss next week's schedule." At the restaurant, Emeka asked her about her life, her family, her dreams. No boss had ever cared about her personal life before. "Do you have family here in the city?" he asked. "No, sir. My parents live in the village. I send them money when I can." "That's very good of you. Family is important." As the months passed, these lunches became regular. Emeka would also ask about her health, if she was comfortable in her apartment, if she needed anything. Sometimes he would give her extra money as a bonus, especially when she worked late or on weekends. "You don't have to do this," Adaora would say. "I want to. You work hard and I appreciate it." Slowly, Adaora began to feel something she had not felt in years: safety. When she was around Emeka, she did not feel afraid. He never looked at her the wrong way or said inappropriate things. He treated her with respect. But this confused her. She had promised herself never to trust any man again. Yet here was Emeka, making her feel safe and cared for. Sometimes she would catch herself smiling when he complimented her work. Sometimes her heart would beat a little faster when he said her name. One evening they were working late on an important presentation. It was past 8 p.m. and they were the only ones left in the office. "Adaora, you should go home," Emeka said. "It's getting late." "I want to finish this first. The meeting is tomorrow morning." "You've done enough. I can finish the rest." As she gathered her things, Emeka stood up from his desk. "Adaora, can I ask you something?" She looked up at him. Yes. Do you have a boyfriend, someone special in your life? The question caught her off guard. No, she said quietly. Why not? You're beautiful, smart, hard-working. Any man would be lucky to have you. Adaora felt her chest tighten. I don't believe in love, Mr. Emeka. I don't trust men. Why? Did someone hurt you? She looked away. It's a long story. I have time if you want to talk about it. For a moment, Adaora considered telling him, but then she remembered her promise to herself. I should go home now. Good night, Mr. Emeka. The next day, Emeka brought her favorite tea to her desk. I'm sorry if I made you uncomfortable yesterday, he said. I was just curious. You can tell me to mind my own business. It's okay, Adaora said, touched by his concern. A few weeks later, Emeka asked her to stay after work again. This time, he seemed nervous. Adaora, he began, his voice shaking a little. We've been working together for almost a year now. Yes, sir. In this time, I've gotten to know you. You're not just a good assistant. You're a good person. You're kind, intelligent, and strong. Adaora's heart started beating faster. She could see where this was going. I care about you, Adaora, Emeka continued, more than just as an employee. I have feelings for you. I want more than just a professional relationship. The words hit her like cold water. All the walls she had built around her heart came back up. I cannot love any man, she said softly, her voice barely above a whisper. I have been through too much. I've seen the worst side of men. What do you mean? Emeka asked, stepping closer. What happened to you? And then, for the first time in years, Adaora told someone her story. She told him about the night in the bush, about the boys who had hurt her. She told him about the pain, the fear, the humiliation. She told him how she couldn't trust anyone anymore, how she couldn't forget what had happened. They laughed at me, she said, tears rolling down her face. They acted like it was fun for them. They destroyed me, and then just walked away like nothing happened. As Adaora spoke, Emeka's face grew pale. His hands started shaking. Slowly, the memories came back to him. The university, the night in the bush, the girl they had hurt. It was her. The scared, crying girl from that terrible night was standing in front of him now, telling him about the worst night of her life. And he had been there. He had been one of them. Emeka stood frozen, unable to speak. The realization hit him like a heavy stone falling on his chest. He was one of the boys who had destroyed her life, and now, years later, he had fallen in love with her. That night, Emeka sat in his big house, but he felt like he was in prison. He kept seeing Adaora's face as she told him about that terrible night. He kept hearing her voice saying, "They laughed at me, they destroyed me." And he remembered. He remembered being young and stupid. He remembered following the other boys that night because he wanted to fit in. He remembered the girl crying in the bushes. But back then, he had pushed those memories away. He had told himself it was just a mistake, something that happened when they were young and foolish. Now he knew the truth. That girl had a name. That girl was Adaora, the woman he loved, the woman he had hurt. Emeka walked to his bedroom and lay down, but sleep would not come. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw her face from that night, scared, hurt, begging them to stop. Then he would see her face from today, strong, beautiful, telling him she could never love a man because of what they had done to her. "What have I done?" he whispered to himself. Tears started falling from his eyes, big grown man tears that he could not stop. He cried until his head hurt. He cried until his chest felt empty, but the pain did not go away. When morning came, Emeka could not get out of bed. His phone was ringing, probably Mrs. Nkiru calling to ask where he was. He had important meetings today. Clients were waiting for him, but he could not move. How could he go to work and see Adaora? How could he look at her knowing what he had done? How could he pretend to be a good man when he had been part of something so evil? He turned off his phone and pulled the blanket over his head. The second day was worse. His stomach was empty, but he could not eat. Water tasted like nothing. His house felt too big and too quiet. Every corner reminded him of Adaora, the kitchen where his cook had prepared meals for her when she worked late, the living room where she had sat sometimes to work on presentations, the garden where she had once said the flowers were beautiful. His maid, Mama Kemi, knocked on his door. "Oga, you have not eaten since yesterday. Let me bring you some food." "I'm not hungry," Emeka said through the door. "You cannot starve yourself. What is wrong? Are you sick? Should I call the doctor?" "No doctor can help me, Mama Kemi. Just leave me alone." The third day, Mrs. Nkiru came to the house. Mama Kemi let her in and brought her upstairs. "Mr. Emeka," she called through his door. "The board members are asking for you. There are contracts that need your signature. People are worried." Emeka did not answer. "Sir, your assistant, Miss Adaora, has been asking about you. She says she needs to talk to you about something important." At the mention of Adaora's name, Emeka's heart stopped. She was asking about him? Why? Maybe she wanted to quit her job. Maybe she wanted to report him to the police. Maybe she had figured out who he was. "Tell her I'm traveling," he said weakly. "Sir, that's not like you. You always tell us when you travel. What should I tell the board members?" "Tell them. Tell them I'm sick. Give them whatever they need." Mrs. Nkiru stood outside his door for a long time before she finally left. On the fourth day, Emeka heard a car outside his house. Then he heard voices downstairs. Mama Kemi was talking to someone. A woman's voice, a familiar voice. His heart started beating fast. It was Adaora. He heard footsteps on the stairs. Mama Kemi was bringing her up. "Oga, your assistant is here to see you. She says it's very important." Emeka sat up in his bed. He looked terrible. His hair was messy, his eyes were red, his clothes were wrinkled. But it did not matter anymore. She was here. "Miss Adaora is very concerned about you," Mama Kemi continued. "She says you have not been eating, that you look sick. She brought you some soup." Adaora was concerned about him. Even after what she had told him about her past, she did not know yet. She did not know that he was one of them. There was a soft knock on his door. "Mr. Emeka, it's me, Adaora. Are you okay?"